Sometimes, God will take us the long way to fulfill His promise. Moving forward in new beginnings. When God is leading us towards something new, it's not only about embracing new beginnings, but it's also about obedience too. Are we going to take those first steps forward by following His lead? Progress toward receiving what God has for us requires movement. We cannot remain still and expect to experience His promise or see them fulfilled. Facing uncomfortable places. God often leads us to and through uncomfortable places as He moves us in a new direction. These times of discomfort are part of His plan to guide us toward what He has promised. Expect the unexpected. There are many things we can learn about God, but as we get to know Him, we begin to expect the unexpected. When He says His ways are not our ways and His thoughts are not our thoughts, He's preparing us to anticipate surprises on our journey. For example, in algebra, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It seems logical to go directly from point A to point B, but God's path often looks different. God's saving power in Scripture. Throughout Scripture, God's miraculous deliverance of His people is mentioned at least 32 times as evidence of His saving power. The Exodus event stands as one of the most remarkable displays of God's ability to defeat His enemies and deliver His people. God would often point His people back to this historic moment so they didn't forget who He was and what He had done, and to separate Himself from the idols of the day. God's steadfast love, faithfulness, and the fulfillment of His covenant promise are evident through these reminders. The Israelites' experience. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." And Moses said to the people, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward." Can you see yourself in Exodus chapter 14, verses 10 through 15, when God is trying to move you from what's been holding you back? The fear and stress of following God to something unknown may cause us to have a false narrative when we look back at our previous situation, causing us to long for what was rather than looking forward to what could be. God's chosen path. Exodus chapter 13, verses 17 through 18 tells us, "When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, 'Lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt.' But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt, equipped for battle." Our response to God's guidance. Often, we respond to God's direction in the same way the Israelites did, fearful and unsure of the path He is leading us down. Sin is a cruel taskmaster. Through this real-life story, God gives us a picture of how cruel sin can be as a taskmaster, and He uses the daily lives of the Hebrews who are slaves, and Pharaoh who cruelly increases their hardships attempting to destroy them. It may not look like it in the natural, but not only are our lives burdened by sin, but we are slaves to sin, whose master Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But God raised up a deliverer, Moses, who was educated in Pharaoh's own house, but prepared in the desert to lead his people to the promised land. Moses confronted the oppressor, demanding freedom and performing signs and wonders to show he was sent by God. Jesus is greater than Moses, but his mission was the same. He came to set the captives free. Lessons from the journey. Scripture chronicles the journey of God's chosen people as an object lesson for us. Their exodus from bondage and their deliverance is our journey as well, showing victories and defeats, opposition, misdirection, and God's sovereign power to deliver, defend, provide, and correct. In His infinite wisdom, God chose not to take them the easiest route because they were not fully prepared for battle. Having been slaves, they needed time to prepare for what was ahead. God wanted them fully dependent on Him, trusting and following Him. He was a cloud by day and fire by night, displaying Himself to the people and as a warning to the surrounding nations. Even though they were not trained to fight, He had them leave in battle formation, emphasizing the importance of preparation. God does everything in His appointed time. Although they had victory over their enemy through God's mighty power, they were not yet ready to face a new enemy. God could have delivered them in any battle, but He did not want them fearful, discouraged, or exposed to unnecessary danger. He brought them to the Red Sea, where escape was impossible unless God intervened. He would not put them in a position to face opposition on both sides, causing them to give up and return to bondage. Key points to remember. 1. God's preparation is essential for our success. 2. Following God may lead us on what seems like an impossible journey, but it may be necessary to fulfill His promise. And 3. God always has a plan. He knows what's best and remains in control.